Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives and become one of our friends on Facebook. Facebook.com/Radio Detectives. Today's program is brought to you in part by the financial support of our listeners. You can support the show on a one-time basis, support.greatdetectives.net, or use the Zelle app to box13@greatdetectives.net, or you can mail in a donation to Adam Graham, P.O. Box 15913, Boise, Idaho 83715. In addition, you can join our more than 170 Patreon supporters at patreon.greatdetectives.net for as little as $2 per month. Well, now it's time for today's episode of Rocky Jordan. The original air date is April the 2nd, 1950, and the title is The Strange Fate of Professor Amar.
You've heard Jack Benny, Amos and Andy, Bergen and McCarthy. Still waiting to entertain you on CBS are Rocky Jordan, Horace Heidt, Dick Hames and Joe Stafford, our Miss Brooks, The Whistler, and Red Skelton. Now, Del Monte Foods brings you a world of adventure with Rocky Jordan.
All I'd started out to do was say hello to an old friend. The hello was almost my goodbye, and not in an easy way. Then came a monkey that looked like a man, followed by a man that acted like a monkey, and before it was over, they'd almost made a monkey out of me. It seems that my fate was all tied up with the strange fate of Professor Joseph Amar.
Del Monte, the brand you trust for flavor in so many good foods. Yes, Del Monte, the best-liked brand of canned fruits and vegetables in the whole wide world, takes you now to the Café Tambourine in Cairo, gateway to the ancient East, where modern adventure and intrigue unfold against a backdrop of antiquity. Tonight's Rocky Jordan story, The Strange Fate of Professor Amar.
I had just helped a friend catch a train at the little Calliope station on the northern outskirts of Cairo when another train came in and made its last stop before pulling into the city. An elderly man with white goatee and carrying a briefcase stepped off the last car for a quick smoke. I hadn't seen him since the war. The 6 years seemed to have changed him. But I was sure it was my old friend, Professor Joseph Amar, chemical engineer. I hurried over for a word with him. Professor Amar, how are you?
I beg your pardon?
It's been a long time, hasn't it, Professor?
A long time? May I ask?
You are Professor Amar, aren't you?
Why, that is my name. And you?
Rocky Jordan, don't you remember? Back in Istanbul.
Istanbul. Oh, yes, of course. Istanbul.
It must be 6 years now.
The train is leaving. I have little time.
Oh, no, wait. Is that all you got to say to me?
I am sorry. Permit me to return to my car. Goodbye.
Sure, Professor. Goodbye to you. It had all the earmarks of a quick brush. Well, some people can change a lot in a few years. I turned my back and started to leave, but I didn't get far. The wild shouts from the crowd sent me running back.
Effendi, sir.
What is it? What happened?
That man fell beneath the wheels of the train. He's surely dead, as you see.
How did it happen?
I do not know. His briefcase lies here.
I'll take the briefcase, Buster.
But Effendi...
Give it to me.
Sir, did I not see you talking to this unfortunate person but a moment ago?
He's the same. Professor Joseph Amar. I hung on to Amar's briefcase, figuring to make a quick phone call to headquarters, but I didn't have to. Just then, the siren of a police car sounded outside, and a moment later, the crowd fell back for Captain Sam Sabaya. A stocky man in tweeds was with him. A couple of uniformed men came behind.
Jordan!
I don't know how, Sam, but you made it awful fast.
What is going on here? What is happening?
Look on the track there, you'll see.
So. Can anyone identify this man?
Hey, I'll do it, Sam. Here's Professor Joseph Amar.
Amar? Professor Amar?
Are you quite sure, man?
I spoke to him a couple of minutes ago. This briefcase is all that's left.
I'll take that briefcase.
Sam.
Give it to Mr. Morby, Jordan. Ali, Ahmud, disperse the crowd at once. Come with us now, Jordan.
Why, Sam? You see it all.
At once, into the station house. Jordan, this is Mr. John Morby, a businessman of Cairo.
Morby.
Mr. Jordan, you must tell us how this happened.
I didn't see it. I came back when I heard the excitement.
But you just said you'd just spoken to him.
I happened to see him step off the train for a smoke. We'd known each other up in Istanbul, so I went over to say hello, that's all.
What did he say to you?
Not a thing. Acted like he didn't even know me.
Jordan, listen to me.
Captain, it is understandable, perhaps, under the circumstances.
How so, Morby? I take it you knew him, too. How does this all happen?
We ask you only to help us learn the truth.
Truth? So you're telling me Amar's fall into the train wasn't an accident?
At this time, it is difficult to say.
There's no doubt in my mind, Captain, not at all.
Don't you think it's about time you explain some things, Sam?
I would explain only that Mr. Morby and I were to meet Professor Amar at the Cairo station. However, he wired from the train to meet him here at Calliope instead. That is why we arrived when we did.
But you won't tell me what's behind it all. Why the big mystery?
That will be all. However, I may wish to contact you again, so let me advise you, Jordan.
Sure, I know, Sam. You'll find me at the tambourine. Sam and Morby went back to do some more checking, and I went where I said I would, to the tambourine. Evening came with no call from Sam. So when the late edition of the Cairo Gazette hit the streets, I picked one up to have a look. That set me to wondering more than ever. There wasn't a single mention of the train accident at Calliope, anywhere. Then somebody came into the tambourine looking for me. A small woman of 50 or so in a black dress.
You are Mr. Jordan?
Yes. Can I help you?
I am Mrs. Amar.
Professor Amar's wife?
I was his wife.
Oh, please sit down.
Oh, you are very kind, Mr. Jordan. I have been told that you were one of the last to see my husband alive.
That's right, I was. You want me to tell you about it?
Oh, no. No, Captain Sabaya told me all. I have been to identify my husband. But after what happened, it was so difficult. Mr. Jordan?
Yes?
Are you sure that it was my husband you saw?
He said it was. I talked to him.
Oh, very well. I only wanted to be certain. It is so hard to realize.
Oh, of course. Mrs. Amar, has there been any change in your husband in the past few years?
Why do you ask?
Just the way he acted, as though he didn't recognize me.
There is so little that I understand.
Wasn't like Professor Amar to forget a friend.
No, it was not.
Well, I wish I had more to say, except that I'm sorry. The police don't think it was an accident.
Do you, Mr. Jordan?
I don't know.
Now that I know my husband is dead, it does not matter. I will go now.
Could I take you someplace, Mrs. Amar?
Oh, no. No, please, Mr. Jordan. It is better that I be alone.
I watched her go with a feeling I should be doing something. But what? Well, I sent the help home shortly after midnight and locked up. I'd been asleep in my room upstairs maybe half an hour when a sound brought me wide awake, a pounding at the front door. I threw on some clothes fast and went down through the cafe.
Open up here. Open at once.
The voice wasn't familiar. I got to the door, unlocked it, and swung it open. Several men in special uniform blocked the door, fronted by a guy waving a government-sealed envelope in my face.
You are Mr. Rocky Jordan?
Yeah. Now, what's the idea?
Read, Mr. Jordan. A warrant issued by proper parties of the Egyptian government.
Nobody needs a warrant
Enough.
to find me.
Step out into the car at once.
Where to?
You will soon learn, and I warn you, Mr. Jordan, I have full authority to use whatever means necessary to
I'll
invest-
spare you the fun. Come on, let's go. They drove through downtown Cairo and into the government center and up to one of the big white buildings. There we got out. One marched ahead and the others flanked me. They hustled me inside and we did a full-dress parade down a long, dark hallway. Finally, we stopped at the door marked Internal Security. They motioned me to go in. I did, and the door snapped behind me. There sat Sam Sabaya, John Morby, and behind an imposing desk, a rock-faced official. The nameplate said Shalak Bey.
Mr. Rocky Jordan?
Yeah, that's right. Sam here can tell you.
Sit down. No, the chair before me. Mr. Jordan, you will answer my questions directly and without evasion. Do you understand?
Oh, I'm impressed.
What was your relationship with Professor Joseph Amar?
So that's it.
Answer him, Jordan.
I knew him in Istanbul before the war. We were just friends.
Did you know that Professor Amar was coming into Cairo?
No, I didn't.
Is it true that you picked up his briefcase at the Calliope station?
Yeah.
Did you know what was inside the briefcase?
No, of course I didn't.
Why did you pick it up?
To keep it away from a dozen beggars.
Did you know what the professor was working on?
Working on? He didn't tell me anything.
Did you have time to slip certain papers out of his briefcase and replace them with others?
Hey, look, what is this? Are you putting the heat on me?
Jordan.
You could have told him, Sam, every bit of it.
I'm asking you, Mr. Jordan.
I didn't have time to open the briefcase, and I wouldn't if I had.
And you insist that you did not know that the professor has been doing some work for Mr. Moresby.
It's all news to me.
Are you quite sure it was Professor Amar with whom you talked?
Oh, that one again. His wife was asking me the same thing.
His wife? Why, this is ridiculous.
She came to my cafe this evening. What's wrong with that, Morby?
Only one thing. Professor Amar had no wife.
I am wondering if we can believe anything you say, Mr. Jordan.
Dogby, with your permission, I think it is time that Jordan knew of the gravity of this affair.
Proceed, Captain, if he does not already know.
Jordan, as you've been told, Professor Amar was doing some research work for Mr. Morby at his plant near Alexandria. But Professor Amar was also doing some work entirely on his own, the development of a new jet fuel which would increase the distance of a jet plane by at least 12%.
I see.
Amar notified Mr. Morby of his discovery, hoping to get financial help in his research. Yesterday, he wired Morby that he was coming to Cairo, bringing data of his findings with him.
But he never got here. He was killed. And the papers we found in his briefcase were phony. Obviously switched after the professor's death.
So what are you trying to do, Morby? Plant it on me?
Of course, you know that I posted a reward of $10,000 for the return of those papers and information leading to the solution of his murder.
Nobody told me.
Shall we continue with the questioning now, Mr. Jordan?
There's nothing more to tell.
Enough of this. We have other methods of getting information.
All right, use them then, Sherlock Bay. Either book me or let me out of here.
I think I will let you go, Mr. Jordan.
Oh, little cat and mouse, huh? Now, let me tell you this. Don't plan to put anybody to follow me around, because I don't like it.
Indeed. You will do well, Mr. Jordan, to concern yourself with graver problems. Think about it. Think most carefully.
Del Monte Foods is presenting tonight's adventure with Rocky Jordan. If you're planning on having a juicy ham for Easter, chances are you're having pineapple with it. And if it's Del Monte pineapple, there's going to be a lot of happy eating next Sunday. It's so full ripe, so tart sweet.
Goodness, yes, Larry. I wouldn't be without Del Monte pineapple this next week for anything, especially Del Monte crushed pineapple, for the ham or for desserts like pineapple cakes and pies. It's such a handy style.
Yes, Del Monte crushed pineapple is a wonderful way to put superb tropic flavor into your favorite recipes. And when I say superb flavor, I mean it. You ought to see how Del Monte picks those selected pedigreed pineapples. Beautiful, luscious fruit, heavy with golden juice and rich in tart, sweet, refreshing flavor. You can't miss it in any style of Del Monte pineapple. Sliced, crushed, chunks, tidbits, or juice.
I remember the first time I tried it. I said to myself, why shouldn't I always get pineapple this good?
The answer is you do when you always get Del Monte pineapple. Get acquainted with it this week, especially Del Monte crushed pineapple for your Easter treats. And now we take you back to Cairo and tonight's Rocky Jordan story, The Strange Fate of Professor Amar.
Well, I left the Internal Security Office knowing I was high on the suspect list in the puzzle of Professor Amar's death. And I kept mulling two things. Item 1, why Professor Amar hadn't seemed to know me at Calliope. Item 2, the woman posing as Amar's wife who had come to my cafe with questions. She could give an answer if I could find her. I started with the blind beggar on the corner near my tambourine. Next, I tried the taxi driver's stand. One of them looked real wise and drove me over beyond the Bulac Bridge to a little hotel. I woke up the clerk.
The fee is half a pound for a single payable in advance. Sign here.
Oh, not this time. I'm just looking for somebody.
Somebody? Only nobodies live here.
There's a woman, past 50, sad eyes, dressed in black.
Her name is not familiar.
She calls herself Mrs. Amar.
You are helping. How do you recognize her?
She's my grandmother.
Which side of the family?
Look, would some money brighten your eyes?
Yes, but it would not loosen my tongue.
It went on that way till I realized she really wasn't there. The cabbie had brought me out there only to pick up a fee. So I went back over the bridge to Cairo and chased around the rest of the night with no more leads. It was getting toward daylight by the time I was back unlocking the door of my tambourine. Before I got inside, I saw somebody else was up early. A weaselly little character with a perpetual grin.
Hello, Mr. Jordan. You don't know me. They call me the monkey.
I can see why.
I know you're looking for a woman. A woman so important as to keep the lights of the Office of Internal Security burning at night.
What's her name? A real one?
Oh, I don't know. But I can take you to her, Mr. Jordan, for a fee.
Will 10 piastres do it?
Oh, no, much less. No, 100 pounds.
100? Still much. I haven't got it.
Too bad. We won't sleep then.
Hey, wait a minute.
100 pounds, Mr. Jordan.
All right, we'll see. Come on inside. I took him back to my office and had him wait there while I made some quick phone calls till I had the home number of John Morby. A few rings got an answer.
Yes? Hello?
Morby, here's Rocky Jordan.
Well, what is it?
Does your reward offer still stand for a lead on Professor Amar's death?
And the papers taken from his briefcase.
Would you earmark 100 pounds of that to find the woman that's been posing as Amar's wife?
If that is possible. Where is she?
Yeah, there's a little character here says he can take me to her for a price.
I'll cover. Give it to him. After you find her and bring her here.
All right, it's a deal. Oh, and Morby.
Yes?
If you don't hear from me in an hour, you'd better call Sam Sabaya, just in case.
I'll do that, Jordan. In 1 hour.
I took the 100 pounds from my safe, kept it in my pocket, and we were off with the little fellow leading the way. He rambled through the side streets for a long way, till we were through the walls into Old Cairo. I watched for trouble along the deserted passageways, but none came. Finally, he turned into a ramshackle dump that even the termites had given up. I kept behind him as he went into one of the rooms, where he stopped and pointed. The light from a high window told me the woman was there, all right, only she had a knife in her back.
You see, I took you to the woman just like I said I would.
You didn't tell me she was dead.
No. I didn't tell you, but I knew it all the time. You see, I'm smarter than you. I took you to her, now you have to pay me.
You tell me something now. Who killed her? Who was she?
The bargain, Mr. Jordan.
Now did you get it out? Come on, who was she?
I don't know. He didn't say.
Who didn't? Come on.
Jordan, let him go.
Zeno. I brought him, Zeno.
I can see. Have a care, Jordan.
Yeah, that gun tells me.
It was a very fine trap, wasn't it? A very fine
Shut up,
trap.
monkey. Stand by the wall, Jordan.
Did you do the job here, Zeno?
It was the plan. She served her purpose.
Then I take it you sent her to my cafe, too, calling herself Mrs. Amar.
Only to get your impressions of the man you saw at the Calliope station. Wait a moment. It occurs to me the monkey's purpose is also fulfilled.
Zeno, no. I did what you said, Zeno. No, no.
You'd do it to anybody, wouldn't you?
Anybody, Jordan. But it is not yet your time. I still have further purpose for you.
Zeno motioned his gun toward the doorway, and we went out. He put me in a small car parked around by the side and drove out of Old Cairo going south, skirting the hills above the Nile at a big flying red horse sign. He then turned east on a road leading into the desert. A few miles of this, and I saw a cluster of palm trees ahead. As we drew closer, I saw it was an old abandoned date farm. We stopped there, and Zeno took me into his shed and down some steps to the cellar. A flickering candle revealed a figure lying there on the floor. At the sound, he raised himself with an effort. As he turned his face, I saw who it was. It couldn't be, but it was. The man I'd thought to be dead. Professor Joseph Amar.
Mr. Jordan. It is you, Mr. Jordan.
So you do know me.
You seem surprised, Jordan, to see Amar still alive.
Surprise is your word.
But it has been so long. Why do they bring you here?
I don't know. A lot of things I don't know.
Don't you, Jordan?
One thing, the switch. The man at Calliope Station. No wonder he didn't recognize me.
Oh, but he looked the part well enough.
I thought he'd changed. Was he one of your setups, Zeno?
He also served his purpose. The world has now learned of his death.
Sure. So you can spirit the real Amar away and nobody'd know.
Yeah. Now you see the full reason why the woman went to your cafe.
Sure, to learn if I'd tumbled to the switch. You still weren't sure, so you sent the monkey to get me.
Excellent.
What happens to Amar now?
Oh, he is much better alive than dead. You see, I have arranged with interested parties to outfit a laboratory on the island of Madagascar. There, the professor will continue to work on his jet fuel, work for which he will be paid handsomely. And you may go too, Jordan.
That brings up a point. Just why am I here?
Simple. First, to convince Professor Amar that the authorities consider him dead and are not looking for him. Second, because he has too little regard for his own life.
Go on.
Perhaps he will reconsider when he sees a friend suffer. And I'll be very happy to separate you piece by piece before his eyes if he does not agree to what I want. Think it over now, both of you.
Mr. Jordan, I did not know. I have been so helpless.
Oh, nobody's blaming you. Professor, tell me something. Were you actually coming into Cairo to meet Morby yesterday?
Yes, but I was picked up by Zeno before I boarded the train. He brought me here.
What about the telegram? For Morby and the police to meet you at Calliope.
I sent no telegram.
They set that up, too. Now, they're asking you to do a lot.
Yes. Until now, I have refused. My discovery must be used only for good. There's already too much evil in the world. But now I must think also of your life.
Well, there's still one chance.
But what, Mr. Jordan? What is the one chance?
I phoned Morby to call the police if I wasn't back in an hour. The police will be out looking for us.
Let us trust that they find us. It is our only hope.
We waited there in the cellar, hanging to that one hope. Several hours went by, and still nobody came. We thought of 100 ways of escape, but none would work. And it was night again before we heard some activity above. Then the door opened, and Zeno came in. When we saw who was with him, we knew our last hope was gone. Sure, I should have guessed it. The big engineering man, John Morby.
Well, Jordan, I see we meet again, huh?
It figures you didn't call Sam Sabaya.
Mr. Morby, but I do not understand.
Well, let Jordan explain it to you, Professor Amar. He seems to understand these things.
Then it was you who had me brought here.
Of course. Zeno tells me you've been making a decision.
He's had more than enough time.
Quickly, then. Will you do as we say?
I must ask, Mr. Morby, how would you know if I were really working for you?
We'll take that chance. Your findings can be tested. We'll find out soon enough.
And just what happens to the findings?
They'll be sold on the open market to the highest bidder. Man or nations, I don't care.
You better think twice, Professor Amar.
There is a plane hidden in the brush nearby. Zeno will fly you both to Madagascar immediately. Unless you wish Mr. Jordan left here on the desert. Your answer, Professor Amar.
I have no choice. I will do whatever you say.
In just a moment, Rocky Jordan returns to conclude tonight's story. The men folks may be getting out in the garden with the early birds these spring mornings, but there's nothing bird-like about their appetites when they come into breakfast. And that's just the time to have the Del Monte tomato juice poured and ready.
Isn't it the truth, though? You know why my husband likes Del Monte tomato juice? He says it satisfies and refreshes all at the same time.
That's because Del Monte tomato juice is so natural tasting. It has a lively, fresh tomato kind of tang, sure, but it also has real flavor richness, too. So, soon as you get the chance, do this. Take a tall glass and fill it brim full of that rich, red juice. Enjoy its fragrance. Then, taste it. I think you'll be convinced right then and there that Del Monte is tomato juice the way you want it. Just as good as it is good for you.
Well, I always say you can expect something special in flavor from any Del Monte food.
You'll like Del Monte tomato juice before meals. You'll like it between meals. So better get several cans when you ask your grocer for Del Monte tomato juice. Back now to Rocky Jordan for the conclusion of tonight's story.
I helped the weakened Professor Amar up the cellar steps ahead of Morby and his boy Zeno. Outside, we saw a couple of more guards waiting. We walked together out into the open, and a half moon overhead was just enough to guide us toward a clump of date palms, where we knew a plane was waiting to take us out of Egypt. A jackal howled somewhere across the sand dunes. It suddenly stopped, and so did we. Then we went on. We were almost to the clump of trees when it happened. A spotlight stabbed the darkness, swinging toward us. Then another one.
Morby! Drop your guns and stand where you are!
They got us, Morby.
No, Zeno. Use your guns, all of you. Shoot out the light!
One of the lights snapped out, but the other held us pinpointed. That's when Zeno and the two guards broke, running wild, but Morby stayed with us, turning to shield himself. It was my cue, and I dived in. The gun flew from his hand. We rolled for a second, and then he was through. When I looked up, I saw Zeno and his guards surrounded by government men. Running toward us, the tassel of his fez flying in the breeze, came Sam Sabaya. Sometime later that night, after we'd gotten the shaken Professor Amar to a hospital for treatment and rest, I was back in the office of Internal Security, along with Sam and the official, Shalak Bey.
Now, Mr. Jordan, in behalf of the Egyptian government...
Oh, skip it, Shalak Bey. I know I look bad from where you sat.
Nonetheless, we know now that you had nothing to do with this affair, at least at the beginning.
Well, it just happened I was at the Calliope station and saw the fellow made up like Professor Amar. It had Morby worried, so he finally had Zeno pick me up and make some use of me, to make sure the real Professor Amar carried out his orders.
It is fortunate that his formula for the new jet fuel has been recovered from such a man as Mr. Morby.
And now you clear something up, Sam. Did Morby actually call you this morning?
Why, no, Jordan.
And how did you find us out in the desert?
But was that not your idea?
I don't follow.
Your warning, Mr. Jordan, that I should not have you followed. It seemed like an excellent idea.
So you had me tailed all the way. You sure took your time about moving in.
Our apologies. But now, sir, our congratulations.
What's the joker this time?
The reward, Jordan. Posted by John Morby himself. Can you think of anyone else it should go to?
No, Sam. Can you?
For canned fruits and vegetables at their finest, for dependable quality always, remember, buy wisely. Buy for flavor. Buy Del Monte. Del Monte, the brand you trust for flavor in so many good foods. Rocky Jordan, written by Larry Roman and Gomer Cool, stars Jack Moyles in the title role with Jay Novello as Sam Sabaya, and is produced and directed by Cliff Howell, with original music composed and conducted by Richard Arant. Remember, you have a date next week at the Cafe Tambourine, run by Rocky Jordan. same time, same station. And the story is Holiday Weekend. Want to taste the real thing in sweet country corn? Then get Del Monte Golden Cream Style corn. Plump, thin-skinned, tender kernels, and lots of them in their own rich cream. Enjoy Del Monte Golden Cream Style corn soon. Larry Thor speaking. Rocky Jordan is presented over CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. I imagine a meeting at CBS where someone says, we like the opening theme to Philip Marlowe. Why don't we just do that on Rocky Jordan? Because that was very much the way it was set up. It was like the way that Philip Marlowe did it. It's like, let's just standardize everything. I don't care for it much, but I think the episode itself was pretty good, with Rocky dealing with a pretty ruthless customer. All right, well, listener comments and feedback, and have this from Cupcake, posted as a review on iTunes. Hello, Adam. Love your podcast. Have a question regarding the episode of Rocky Jordan, the White Beetle. The actor who plays Bannister has a very distinct voice. It sure sounds like the voice of the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. Any chance it is? Thank you for the great podcast. All the best. Well, thank you so much. And I think there's a pretty good chance the voice of the Haunted Mansion is Paul Frees. Frees voiced a lot of characters and did just so much voice work and narration. He was known for things like being the original voice of Ludwig von Drake in the Disney Wonderful World of Disney. And he also, for Jay Ward, he originated the voice of Boris Badenov. And we've heard voices similar to that, which is obviously Paul Frees, and did just so many different voices. He was Fred in Super Chicken, so he knew the job was dangerous when he took it. Just so many, just such a wide variety of characters, different voices that has entertained people more than 30 years after he's been gone. And he also did a lot of narration for Disney and on some of the rides, including Haunted Mansions. But thanks so much for the question, Cupcake. I do want to go ahead and thank our Patreon supporter of the day. I want to go ahead and thank Natalie. Natalie's been one of our Patreon supporters since April of 2017. She's currently supporting us at the Shamus level of $4 or more per month. Thank you so much for your support, Natalie. And that will actually do it for today. Join us back here tomorrow for Boston Blacking. Next Wednesday, another episode of Rocky Jordan. In the meantime, send your comments to box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives and become one of our friends on Facebook, facebook.com/Radio Detectives. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.